So, originally, we were going to talk today about the performative wokeness of a particular creative development person. How would you describe him? I think one time you said he was kind of like a showrunner.
I said I think that literally the best translation is a showrunner, because people literally said it's a comic series, but people started referring to issues as episodes
And seasons,
because
too.
he literally was like, I love television, I
Yeah.
love this, I love that, and so people were like, this is so great, we'll just do whatever he says, call it whatever he says.
Yeah.
His word is the word of God.
Yeah, so they particularly, and unfortunately, kind of have this performative wokeness when it comes to gender issues. Probably when it comes to Black Lives Matter. I didn't really go that deep.
Let's be honest, most of the shit we're going to be talking about right now is going to be from between the years of, what, 2012 to
2018.
18? I didn't realize that went that long.
Yeah, but Black Lives Matter started in 2013.
No, that's not what I mean. I
Okay.
mean, you know, like, nobody in that fandom gave a shit about that at the time. It was basically just, in short, you know what, I won't even lead with that joke. I won't lead with that joke, it's a bit too much. But, you know, it was before the internet was starting to be used for, like, cancel culture. It's weird because this guy kind of seems like he slipped through the cracks, because the way that the Transformers fandom likes to do all these call-out posts, and this person depicted gays wrong, and this person did this, and, like, they're not always wrong, but it was just weird that this guy was grandstanded so hard that, like, that's not even the right way to say it, but basically people put him on a pedestal, and then to the point where anything was fine.
And the problem is that putting someone who's a performative woke or participates in performative activism is that's what the fans perceive as the maximum, and it's like not even close. You haven't even scratched the surface. So I went back through his Twitter timeline, actually looking for examples of performative wokeness. So there is over 30,000 tweets on this person's page. And while I was looking through some of his posts, it was actually specifically a post about like a feminist talking. I found out that over the years, this person has been subjected to an insane amount of emotional abuse. And I went from kind of basically doing an entire episode calling him out, and honestly, we still might talk about it later on, but
right now, basically, what was more egregious was the fact that not only was nobody calling him out for some of the BS stuff he's done in the comic line, but they were also not policing each other when it came to, like, the Ask Me Anythings and stuff like that. And I think, honestly, one of his mistakes on the author's behalf was the fact that he kind of didn't stop anybody either.
Yeah.
There are instances where he's introduced stuff into the canon of his line that people ate the shit up out of. They were like, this is great, but, like, when you read it out, even with or without context, it doesn't even matter. When you read it, you're like, why did you go that route? Yeah. Why did you need to answer a question this way?
Yeah, so this Twitter account was made in 2012, so a little bit late on the Twitter spectrum.
But it did start out as an individual personal Twitter account.
Going through the years, I want to say 2012 to 2015. It wasn't until 2013 where people started to get really, like, it was a one-off post where someone mentioned jacking off.
I'm already laughing.
And mind you, his original tweet wasn't even about jacking off.
It had nothing to do with it.
It was about a situation that he saw in a store. And then you go down to the replies of this tweet, and someone literally goes, oh, X character and X character, you should draw that person sexually frustrated, and the other person got basically, like, angry because he wouldn't jack him off in the comic book. And it's like, wow, you said, like, it came from completely left field. It was like, hey, I was at Starbucks and this happened, and someone basically said, yeah, you should draw these characters jacking off. And it hit me like a sack of bricks because fundamentally, if you look at his Twitter from 2012 to 2015, most of the questions are very innocuous. He has a lot of back and forth. He talks to his coworkers on Twitter. He talks to fans on Twitter.
Basically uses it as an actual Twitter where he's like, hey, this is coming out soon. Y'all should buy it. We'll all have fun.
Yeah. Kind of doing IDW's marketing for them, which...
Let's go ahead right now and say that using your writers and artists' marketing tools is fucking stupid. That's
Stop doing it.
That's the kind of bullshit you see where it's like, that's not even close to being in their job to be a walking ad.
Yeah. And I think that using them as a marketing tool is why all of a sudden you have these people coming up and basically sexually harassing them. And they can do nothing about it because technically they're on the clock. It's essentially like someone coming up to a retail worker and saying, hey, the people who work here have really nice asses.
And like I was saying earlier, not on this podcast, but actually on another one, that even if the comment is not directed at you and you feel uncomfortable by it, it's because that person had no fucking business bringing something sexual up.
Yeah.
And like, wow, just put a cork in it. Like, I have every right to be uncomfortable whether or not it was directed at me. Like, first of all, you're saying it about people I know. Second of all, you're saying it about people in general to another person with ears that can hear you.
Yeah.
And it's just, how the hell do you respond? And the thing is in retail, just like in all just major corporations as well, is they don't want you to turn away the people that buy your products.
Yeah.
No matter how they behave for the most part. And that's coming from actual working in retail.
Yeah.
As well as working behind the scenes in other upper level shit. And you're just like, Jesus Christ. Stuff that goes on, it's like, that's why I'm never shocked by certain headlines. It's just like, of course so-and-so is getting sexual harassment.
So, in 2015, this person did an Ask Me Anything. And you could kind of tell, I don't know if they did the Ask Me Anything because IDW sat there and was like, oh, our sales are going down. Can you
charge them up.
Yeah, charge them up, go interact with them, go get people's interest.
Literally be their hype man.
Yeah. And so they did an Ask Me Anything. And I'm going to be honest, there were a lot of raunchy questions in there. But there were some questions that were pretty innocuous, but being in the fandom itself and understanding the people that it came from, some of which are now Nazi blogs, or some of which are now basically like...
have scrubbed their current blogs clean and sanitized them to the point where if you do find out who they are, like, there's no way to find the evidence anymore.
Yeah.
And also the fact that most I would say just deleted their old blogs because there was just an oversaturation of not safe for work content on them. And that didn't even have anything to do with the Great Tumblr Purge, as they call it, which happened around wintertime in 2018 or whatever the hell. Like, just the fact that they did it at all. It's like, my God.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned the Great Tumblr Purge. This person's sort of exodus from writing for Transformers happened around the same time Tumblr Transformers people came over to Twitter.
They did, and you can go to most of the a lot of old Transformers art blogs. You can literally go and find their most recent post is usually from a couple of years ago now. And it says stuff like, I'm going to Twitter. I don't want to have to deal with the filtration system on Tumblr anymore. I'm going on Twitter where I'm not stifled. And it's like, oh God forbid your inflation picture doesn't get posted, you
God. And, you know, it sounds like it's coming out of nowhere, but I want to say the worst of it started in 2016. Where you would have people basically going, like, it's like going up to a person and going, hey, do you think these two characters would, like, go last all night? It was like a Teen Vogue magazine or a 17 magazine.
With a bunch of listicles
where
it's like top 10 f***able characters.
Who's the hottest on the Lost Light? Or who's the one that's nice?
Who's the sexiest wrecker? And like that kind of shit. And it's like, man. Yeah. And it really, the problem with it at its core, not even, at its many cores, is the fact that a lot of the people portraying this were women.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that were being the loudest, despite the fact that they're kind of a a little bit of a minority overall. If you want to talk worldwide, they're a minority.
Yeah.
But I would say they're predominantly in like places like America, the UK, Canada sometimes. And it's just like, man, I wish people didn't this side of Transformers I would say is very new within the last 15, not even 15, maybe 10 years.
Maybe 11.
And it's kind of given female Transformers fans a real bad
reputation.
It gives them a bad look. And even people that are more into the not safe for work content, just casually, you know, people are afraid to tell their friends and stuff. Like, it's just another one of those things where it's like, it's my kink, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like, because they immediately go to the extremist part of the fandom where they've seen this weird shit.
Yeah.
Because Transformers on Tumblr had a very clear safe for work and a not safe for work tag. And I remember the names. I'm not going to say them because if you're going to find it, you're going to find it. And most of the people on this podcast, if they've already been listening this long, I feel like they know what we're talking about without us having to say it verbatim.
So, what I saw most in 2015, after specifically the Ask Me Anything, was that people started to go from... So to kind of show you what the changes were, in 2015, this person was asked a particular question, which was, where does Drift's money come from? In 2015, he sits there and states, I do have an answer to that, but it's not nice. Then, in 2020, I want to say, it was 2020, someone else asks this questions, and
he's basically like, I get asked this a lot.
Yeah.
And then, eventually, he literally answers it by saying, the character rents out his thighs. And obviously he's alluding to prostitution. Yeah. There is no other way to think of that. And my problem with it immediately by looking at it was, first of all, why did you go that route?
Yeah.
You are a professional. And the thing is, by now, people have been told a lot on Tumblr, people that were just into comics in general and doing comic style art, was if you dare step your foot in the not safe for work category, you are unhireable.
Yeah.
And now we've done this gigantic 180 where I can literally name 3 people on Tumblr that I followed personally for short to long time. I don't recall, maybe a year to 3 years at most.
Yeah.
They now officially work for IDW.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for me to see their work and not think about not just the sheer existence of the not safe for work content, but the fact that I've seen their usernames attached to very vulgar comments that they surpass just lol, kinky question, haha, funny, we're in a good environment for this, it's okay, everybody's consenting to the conversation, to stuff that was just completely blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I literally found an old blog that I remember the name of because the person that ran it was just incredibly insane to me, and like, I scrolled through their blog for maybe 30 minutes just trying to see where their first post in the not safe for work tag on their own blog was, just because I was curious to see how long it went on. It took me 30 minutes, and it was only 4 years worth, from 2012 to 2016. And it was that much. And I'm talking, this person was literally posting like 4 to 5 times a day about personal headcanons and sex scenarios. And they were just like these crazy random thoughts that were like unfinished sentences, bullet points, and just, it was endless. And by the end of it, like, my stomach was roiling. Just, I was like, ugh, I couldn't take it anymore. And the fact of the matter is this person's Twitter we're talking about, that's what their fucking archive was like.
Yes.
It was an endless barrage of these hyper-sexualized comments about these fictional, mostly predominantly male-coded robots.
The primary 2 ships that were disgusting was...
You mean like disgustingly high amounts of like...
Disgustingly high amounts of people commenting about it, and then for some reason people also being like disgusting about them.
Like piggybacking on every other... My thing is, it's weird is when you see one, but then when you see people piggybacking off the sexual comment, and it never ends, and you're just
it gets worse.
And you're like, good God, guys, you're getting more obscene with every reply. It's just weird.
You go down, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. The further down in the replies you go. As I said before, you know, he would have a tweet, and it'd be entirely innocuous. Particularly one in 2016 was like, I think he was like, he started to be like, oh, really exciting thing about this character and this character. And then you'd go down to the bottom of all the replies and they would be talking about fucking ball torture.
Can you imagine? Just my thing is like the best example of this is like people being like the main, you know, the actual like producer of the content, whatever you want to call it, the person that the creative mind behind it was just sitting there basically being like, these two characters knew each other on a different planet and both received training from this person. Isn't that cool? And people would immediately be like, they didn't they? Like, it was insane. The point A to point B, it was just crazy. It was immediate
nuts.
too.
It was nuts.
It was immediate. It was like within minutes of a post, people would just jump on that shit.
And the problem is I can't view that as innocuous.
Of course it's not innocent anymore. Of course it's not. And the thing is why? Just why? Why?
And to me, the way that I saw it, as an outsider who wasn't involved in anything, I saw someone go from using this platform to talk to coworkers, to talk to fans, to talk to friends, to talk to industry professionals that were adjacent to what they were.
Or people thanking him for his content, being like, I really like the way you wrote this storyline. And him being like, thanks, it means a lot, I appreciate it.
To him being constantly barraged with sexual content, not safe for work content. And it isolated him from his coworkers. His coworkers and him don't have as often of interactions. It's almost as if they view the platform no longer as a safe space for a conversation. And at the same time, he went from having these long sentences. He would oftentimes use one full tweet to respond to fans, to make sure he knew they were appreciated. He would put in emoticons and all that stuff, to using like less than 10 words.
It kind of just showed you like a mental decline in the ability, the stamina with which to answer these with, because like we discussed like a long time ago, it's like were his bosses consenting to this to say, just go out there and take it, it's just the internet, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, reading it as an outsider, even as just passing by it and going, my God, this a real person had to read these every day for years
and
it's
get
insane.
Notified of it. And my thing is that at that point, I probably would have shut down my Twitter. I mean, so I wonder why he still puts up with it if he is so broken of a person
that he doesn't know how to deal with it or something. Like he doesn't know where to go. I mean, man, if that becomes a norm for you, just holy like you can't
They go onto his, first of all, they found his personal, I think, Instagram.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And they would like comment on his kids' photos. And do really, it's something specific to emotional abuse called vigilant monitoring. And it's basically stalking. But what these fans would do is they would find every avenue of this guy's life and just be like, bring it into Transformers. There was a picture that someone said that he was like, oh, if this character is based off of you, you're a twunk. And I'm like, that's great, honey. You don't know this guy's sexuality and you didn't exactly, like, no offense, if someone called me like butch or femme or a stud or something like that, I can't really take that as a compliment.
Well, first of all, you're not even in the realm of having that conversation.
No.
There is zero reason why that topic would be brought up.
Right.
Other than the fact that these people thirst for a sexual, reciprocative conversation so much that they will go out of their way with these really gross parasocial relationships and just put him on this pedestal, and he doesn't even want to be there.
And my biggest thing is that when I used to be more active on Twitter, I have actually had conversations. I wouldn't really call them conversations. I would say something, I'll have like a witticism or a quip on one of the author's tweets, and people would come up or like respond to me or contact me through Discord or Tumblr, like one of my other social medias, and be like, oh my God, this person responded to you. And it's just like,
literally what you did was they had the original author a fan was like
disgusting.
Was being weird. It was just super, like, I'm gonna say it. It was cringe. It was really bad. It was very uncomfortable to read even. And he basically was like, Jesus Christ. And so you came in and took the whole thing and you were like, if people ask me, you know, when they ask me why I don't like Transformers anymore, I'll just show them this tweet interaction. Yeah. And he, the author, came out and replied to that and was like, lol, in agreement. Like, obviously, like, yes. Yeah. Like, at a base level, whether or not he's like, I want to die over it or something. You know, he was just like, yeah. It's gross out there. And to me, it's a pretty basic confirmation that it is as bad as it looks.
And my thing is I feel as if the roles were reversed. I feel as if this person was a woman. And this was men doing it to her?
Yeah, basically being like, oh, so when are Chromia and RC gonna f***? And it's like, what the hell? Or hey, whose tits are bigger, this character or this one, or you? And like, man, God, just
But my thing is that there is some problematic stuff that his male fans say, like the breast force thing.
Yeah, basically, I think it's a little over midway through the comics. Yeah. Like, there's I would say for Transformers, which has been predominantly male robot centric, you know, when the femmes show up, it's a big deal. Yeah. And that's even a thing back in G1 where it's like, there's not that many of them. Yeah. We don't get a whole lot of info on that, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to get into that right now, but basically the introduction of several female characters at a time. Yeah. And people immediately were like, I'm going to lump them together and I'm going to call them, like, basically Tit Force. And it's just like...
And at no point in time, going back to the beginning, when I was looking for performative wokeness, this is what I found. It was like, okay, so at no point in time did you go, don't call them that.
Or just not respond. Or just not respond. Like, just leave anything that was like that alone. Which makes me... I mean, you can blacklist certain phrases and stuff from your, like... Twitter has an ask box, basically, like a DM thing, or what is it?
It's like a retweet.
Just the retweet,
it's the retweet part and replies.
So yeah, it's just like, man, just don't interact.
Don't do it.
And it makes me wonder that was he doing it because he wanted to, or was he doing it because his bosses wanted him to? I don't really know.
My thing is that a person
that's that far into that, but
it's kind of like Stockholm syndrome or a coerced answer, where. Did the fans did the fans
pound him into submission with a complete just tsunami's worth of crazy out of pocket shit?
Did he feel as if he finally answered questions
that they would
stop? And I don't know, because
I think what they did was, like we said, he gave him an inch and they took 5,000 miles. They couldn't get enough. No. It never ended. And it's like, man, when do you guys get fucking sated? It's crazy.
And when do you guys get self-aware enough to realize that you are subjecting another human being? You don't know if he's reacting positive to this.
And just because he responds, doesn't really mean he's sitting there laughing, going, ha ha, lol, I don't know. Maybe he does wear a ring. Like, it doesn't mean, I mean, it's specific and strange, but... It's just weird. To me, it's one of those weird internet things that you're just like, what is going on behind the scenes here? Yeah. Like, I'm dying to know. Yeah. What's going on here?
If I could just sit down and have a talk with this person, I think my first question would be, are you okay?
And in an unironic way. Like, honestly, what I was seeing people say, it's just...
It gave me a stomach ache.
Yeah, it's like, man, it's...
My hand shook.
It's so uncomfortable, and we're not even a part of it, and like we've been steering clear of it for so long, but once we decided to go, wait a minute, what happened with this? And then we went back and looked, and it's like, I wouldn't come back from that. I don't. If he did decide, I mean, let's go ahead and also bring up the fact that this person hasn't really been involved with the Transformers IP since
2 years. It's been 2 years.
If they have, it's presumably under a pseudonym or working in conjunction with somebody else, and they let them take the whole, like, you know, well, let's just put it under your name. I don't, because I will say the name has become so famous with just fanficky and this and that, and it's a shame because his comic line wasn't that bad, but I feel like it succumbed to what a lot of shows do, which is like mid-season 2, things start derailing because the bosses and the execs start saying, hey, the fans want to see this. And it's like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, you're not the one paying the fucking bills for this, are you? Yeah. So do what we say.
Well, my worry is excuse me, I worked in a comic book shop, and I can tell that, you know, Transformers itself went from number 2 to, you know, in maybe the top 300 rather quickly. It was originally supposed to be like 100 issues, I think.
I know it was slated to go on for a while, and then what happened was basically it got cut off at around the mid-50s, and I don't know if they threw away their second half or if they just decided to go ahead and start a whole new thing. And there is a new line going on right now that I think leaves off where the other one did. And I've been reluctant to read it just because honestly the fans have soured. I shouldn't even say the fans. The fanatics, like the crazy motherfuckers, have really soured me on it because it was hard for me to read content and interpret it as my own because a lot of people would go out of their way to be like, Drift blinked at Ratchet, and that means they f***ed last night. And I'm like, what? Where are you getting this shit, dude? And relax.
Here's my biggest problem is, you know how you said before that you know that 3 people who work for IDW right now are people who used to be in porn blogs.
And they have since either scrubbed and ultra sanitized their former Tumblrs, or they have just completely deactivated them.
Yeah. But the thing is that I know who they are. I've seen them. And I don't want to support them.
You've even interacted with one that went so far as to either get her friends or allow her friends to send you literal death threats. And say things to you without even having seen your face. Just, you're some fat go kill yourself. Literally just as plain as day. And it's like, I remember you just laughing your ass off because it was just like, all because I said this person's cover art was, like, not very anatomically looking. It didn't look anatomically correct. Yeah. And I've seen it since, and I'm like, this looks weird. It looks wanky as f***. And, like, you're like, I'm not even talking about just this one. Like, now I'm gonna start to be mean for spite. So here's 6 other issues you did that also look like ass.
Yeah, these are the covers I'll never buy.
I mean, the thing is it all comes down to, everybody says don't feed the trolls. So even if you were being kind of trollish, like, why did this an adult tell somebody who they didn't even know how old you were? Like, you could have been 15.
Yeah.
And they're always going, save the children. Oh my god, kids don't know any better. And then suddenly they're like, go die, bitch. And it's like, you work for somebody? Jesus. Do they know?
So, and at the same point, if this author goes back to working, how does it feel to be surrounded by people like your abusers? IDW now hires from a pool of his abusers, people who act like the people who would say sexual stuff out of pocket. They try to cover their tracks. We know who they are. And no offense, their art is recognizable. Do they do that stuff together? Does those 3 go, look what I drew, check it out?
I mean, yeah, God only knows what the hell they do by themselves offline, but it's just...
And would they pressure him into doing things he doesn't really want to do with the work?
I mean, I don't really know what the connection between the artists and the writers is. I have no clue. I doubt it's very strong at all. I think it's more about the executives and corporate basically being like, you do this, you do that, email to each other at the end. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's like during fucking Corona, but, you know...
2020.
Either way, it's just... The fact that it's just, everything's gone so unchecked. Yeah. And it's like, well, why is somebody getting blacklisted for drawing 2 guys kissing because somebody goes, that's gay, it's gross, don't do that. And then somebody who draws violent oviposition mixed with crazy tentacle BDSM, why are they being... And not even just, I'm not even saying that's really the problem, but their attitude on the most part around that stuff that they make is very much like, if you don't like it, fuck you. Like, I've literally seen that. People being like, you don't like my weird bug formers? Like, get out of here. And it's like, well, what if they were just saying, like, it looks a little strange, and it's like, well, fuck you! Sexual freedom! And just how crazily, fanatical and, like, just crazily they react. They blow their top, and it's like, to me, that's my problem, is, like, your shit is a little extreme sometimes. Maybe dial it back, and if somebody critiques it, don't interact if you can't control yourself. If you're gonna tell people to kill themselves, or get your friends to tell people to kill themselves, and then not apologize in the many years after. And it's like, what, you think that because you got employed that you won?
Yeah.
Oh, I've gotten my rightful position, so my haters. And it's like, people that critique your art are not always going to be flamers. They're just not. That's just not the way it...
Yeah.
That's like the whole problem now people are noticing, where it's like a lot of YouTubers, when they do these stupid apology things and they miss the point completely, and they start lumping the criticizers with the haters so they can dismiss them all as one giant group and say, well, everyone's sending me death threats, so... And it's like, honey, it was 2 out of every 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So, it's just...
Well, and that leads to the question of, I think the reason why no one has pointed out this abuse up until now is because every single one of them is a part of it. Every single one of them, if they call out someone else,
they're easily gonna get, what do you call it?
Blowback from it.
Yeah, basically people are like, well, you do.
You
blah,
like
blah, blah.
Nazi
It's like,
for work. You can't, or even them going, well, you're blocking me from my sex positivity. Sex positivity relies on consent, and not at any point in time does anyone go up to this person and say, hey, I have a question, but it's kind of sexual in nature. Can I still ask it? And they can say, well, you can ask it, but I might not obligated to answer. And then you can say, okay, well. Or if they say, no, I'm not really comfortable with you asking me sexual questions because I don't know how to answer it, and
this isn't the place, the time or place to do it or something. You know, it's just weird because like we were saying, nobody self-policed.
No.
Nobody was like, my God, you fans are sick. Because a lot of the people that did that just left.
Yeah.
And I don't mean even Twitter. Like, they just left everything. They left Transformers behind.
Because they were tired of it too.
And I totally get it. And I used to, like, when you told me, like, you had a personal friend that was really popular and they made this cute Ask blog, and people just destroyed their inbox with disgusting anons and stuff, to the point where they're like, why am I doing this? This doesn't bring me happiness anymore. I'm out of here. Yeah. And I used to just sit there and be like, that's so sad, because they were so talented. Like, this individual I'm speaking of was incredibly talented, and their stuff was so cute, and was... I feel like people really think in Transformers now is like, it's not interesting unless it's sexual in nature, or there's some sort of like, what do you call it, like innuendo involved. And it's like, if you can't just listen to a story for the story, then what the hell are you here for? You're just waiting to see if this couple that you think's been getting queer baited is gonna And it's never even just form a relationship or kiss or hold hands. It's always, what I see, the loudest people are always just like, when is somebody gonna tie them up and call him a good boy and slap his ass and bring out a giant electro whip? And it's just like, what do you guys really think all sexual relationships are that? That's crazy. Not everybody has that stamina. Oh my God. And like, I keep going back mentally from the trauma to this specific person I mentioned earlier that made me just want to vom. It was insane. And I might leave that for another time and talk about basically the weird sect of Transformers fans that are predominantly women. I've seen a few men in there, mainly gay or bi, that have just torn apart, quote unquote, like normal sex. Like everything has to be blown out of proportion. Yeah. And they treat it like it's an everyday thing. And like, that makes me laugh, because it reminds me of that post where somebody was like, just wanted to say thank you, I love you and cherish you like a sister. Anyway, here's a fucking fish merformers gangbang picture to thank you for your friendship. And it's like, what the hell?
And going back to going back to the author, it makes me wonder, because the way he responds to things now, the way, like, honestly,
it's so lifeless and vague.
It's very lifeless. It's very soulless. And it makes me wonder, who could they go to? Like, would a therapist understand, hey, I'm basically getting emotionally abused and bullied by women who like what I write? Because this person has been doing it since they were young. They love everything about what they write about. They've always wanted to do this, and this is how they make money. And I would be creatively drained after seeing the kind of abuse that I am creatively drained. I don't want to talk about anything Transformers anymore. But have they been able to heal at all, or are they just walking around with it, just going, this is fine, this is okay,
Yeah, it wasn't just a day's worth. It was every day for years. And it's... Again, I have no idea why he did respond. I'm not gonna blame him for it. The whole thing was that, he's done some questionable things in the comics, but never has he put anything overtly horrible, I would say. I mean, I'm sure some people were like, this is really bad. And it's like, okay. Like, some people are like, this is the worst, and they give you an example, and you're just like, man, you haven't lived a real life, have you? If you think that's the worst in this fictional comic.
Yeah, he's well-intentioned, but unfortunately...
I think he's just a little ignorant sometimes.
A little out of tune, little out of focus. But then again, look at who he is.
And look at the people that flock to him. I mean, who is he getting his information from?
Yeah.
You know, if he did ask a question, would he even get an honest response?
No,
probably not.
And the thing is that despite his mistakes, he doesn't deserve...
The abuse outweighs any missteps
that he did,
ever which done. They're pretty on the fucking... I mean, if you see the shit that YouTubers and people like that do nowadays, and some of the shit that showrunners for, like, the CW's fucking, the Riverdale show gets away with, like, it just makes the comic shit seem like nothing, which it kind of, kind of is. It falls victim to a lot of tropes that have been around forever, and it's like, if you want to have a problem with the trope, that's fine. Go ahead and tell him so, but don't make up some bullshit about it. And
my thing is that you can see other people who have done episodic things, like one of the writers for She-Ra. She's very open about everybody's sexuality and things like that, but she doesn't get, asks. They say, well, are they going to kiss? Are they going to do this? No one's sitting there going like...
It's very gentle. Yeah, nobody's saying, is somebody going to participate in sounding and involved torture?
There's not that.
It's not so extreme, which brings me back to the fact that people are like, Transformers is for boys, males.
Yeah.
And, here are these male-coded, super tall, made of steel motherfuckers that are huge, and it's like, well, then everything they do has to be at 1,000%.
Yeah.
Even the sex. And it's like, I think a lot of people use that, especially the Tumblr people I've witnessed, like to use that as an avenue for their own, like, complex feelings about sex. And they're just like, I just want somebody to shove me down and stick a brick up my ass. And it's just like, what? And it's like, honey, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want that, probably. Yeah. And it's just, until you go out and have an actual sexual experience, or many even, just enough to get your bearings and go, okay, this is what this is like.
Yeah. Because
I've seen some violent sexually charged art, and it's just anywhere from just dark innuendo to explicit as all hell. And it's like, it's so weird, because a lot of people, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now, a lot of people have canonically tried to push the idea that Transformers are hermaphrodites. But it's just funny because it reminds me of all the sterilization to their bodies that people have done with those depictions.
Yeah.
They remove things like testicles and stuff like that.
Yeah, anything that makes things difficult.
Anything that complicates the sexual purity of it. And it's just crazy because it's like, guys, real sex is not anything like that.
And can you imagine them involving this person in with those fantasies?
Just why would you want to go to your idol and admit what way? Basically, a lot of people, I will say, use them as avenues for themselves. And, like, I know a lot of people are like, Rodimus is me, basically. Oh, my God. And I'm like, really? You're, like, a 20-something douchey 80s teen? Like, 80s teen? Yeah. And 20 at the same time? Just, really? You're in charge of a bunch of people and you f***ed up and got some of them killed? Like, that's not, if you want to get really, like, way figurative about it, just be like, oh, I understand the struggle of being too immature to take charge. And it's like, well, yeah, but he also doesn't take any accountability. Like, he's a shit character to me. I mean, he's not a shit character, but I don't like him, because if I were to come across a person like that in real life, I'd hate them for sure. There's so annoying.
There's a difference between sitting down and going, okay, I relate to this person because they reflect me, and being like, I relate to this person because I can involve them in all of my sexual fantasies. And
because I find them appealing, and also it reflects on myself. And it's like, man, what the and take it easy.
And in addition to that, then they they get so bold as to go up to someone who writes this for a living and goes...
And has never published anything R-rated like that. It is never like that.
Very open about saying, I do not publish anything like this.
And at most, there's a cuss word every now and then, like, or damn it. Like, it's so basic.
And you just have to wonder, like, it's not healthy to be exposed to that. And he has exposed himself to that. And allowed... I'm not judging him. You know, as we said, we're not sitting here judging this person for allowing people... Because, honestly, at certain points in time, it's overwhelming. It overwhelmed myself, and I was not going through it. But when it comes down to it, have they been able to heal? Have they ever reached out to be able to heal? And what will it be like returning to something they love after being so traumatized for it?
Yeah, it's just, like, here are all my things about it. Like, I'm not here to victim blame him. I'm not here to kink shame people. I'm not here to say you can't feel, like, have a character feel relatable to you. That's not it. We're talking about the maximum extremes that were commonplace on this man's feed for years. And it's...
Not days, not months.
Years. And there are thousands of tweets about it, and the fact of the matter is like, we don't know why he continued to engage. We don't know if he was forced. We don't know if he had to for publicity reasons. We don't know if he was just curious himself and wanted to see what happened. I don't think he knew what he was getting into.
Or if he felt that if he answered the questions, people would leave him alone and stop being so
adamant about knowing these details that don't contribute to the storyline of the comic itself. Yeah. Why does it matter if so-and-so so-and-so? Why does it matter to you? Why does it matter if so-and-so so-and-so 100 years prior to the comic? Like, why do you want to know that?
They want him to say it, so that way they can be validated.
They can, and confirm their own stupid ideas about the universe of Transformers.
And the fact of the matter is that you seeking out validation from someone you've put on a pedestal and exposing them, not to your secrets, because obviously it's not a secret anymore, but exposing them to something that they necessarily don't want to be exposed to, it needs to stop.
I feel like it might have actually even been not embarrassing, but like, I would have been embarrassed as an adult making a living off my work and having to publicly tell people, guys, you've got to stop submitting this sexually charged stuff, because it's like that thing where people that didn't know about it might not know about it, and people that do know about it don't want to admit to it. So when you get both the casual fans and the people that are partaking in it, they see that, and the casual fans go, wait, whoa, what's going on? And it's like, if you didn't want to attract attention to it, you know, you might not want to bring it up at all, but it's like, I just don't understand why. I think it would have been actually very important I understand why he didn't, or why it hasn't happened or may never happen. It's totally fine, but like, for me, I feel like I personally would have been like, I've got to tell them to stop, because I want everyone to know that this isn't okay in any aspect of the industry and the world, to just bombard somebody with this really over-the-top crazy shit. And like, now I've even noticed that there are blogs dedicated to archiving on Tumblr his posts and responses to sexual shit, and people have taken it and been like, oh my god, look what he said, oh my god, oh, and a bunch of exclamation points in the tags, and just being annoying about it. And you're just like, Jesus, why are you getting so excited about the fact that somebody said, you know, maybe they did date, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, he has put quite a few, like, queer-coded characters, I would say. Not really queer-coded, what's the one?
Queer baiting.
Just actual, you know, supposedly gay characters into Transformers. Like, you've got Cygate, and you got a lot of stuff going on there. And Chrome Dome and Rewind, which I don't like them anyways, but the thing is just, it set a weird precedent for what people thought that comic was going to be about.
Or what was okay.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, guys, read the fucking room.
Yeah.
You guys are it's like them shouting in an empty room at each other, going, oh my god, he wore panties, and then like the whole room is just silent, but making this face of like, God, please stop. Because it's like, How do you even get into that and tell them to stop without a bunch of people hounding the shit out of you?
You don't know how many people you've made uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like nobody seems to give like safe space this, safe space that. And I'm like, safe space does not mean you get to shout your sexual proclivities wherever you want.
Yeah.
Because they make you happy or whatever.
Yeah.
It means understanding that at a base level you should be polite in your interactions to people until you know their comfort level.
Yeah. Consent matters, and you cannot have sex positivity without consent. And it seems as if the Transformers fandom has not learned that lesson. If anyone has any sort of receipts or
just interactions that they recall that were just so out of pocket, feel free to go ahead and like tell us about it, because in the end it's just kind of the two of us relating our own experiences to each other about it, and
there could be something we don't know.
And we were on the internet at slightly different times. It did overlap, but like you were on it before me. Yeah. I was on it beyond when you left for a little bit, and just we both saw the same thing. And I find it hard to believe that there's not a lot of people out there that didn't also see the same thing. Like, I swear to God, this shit is so public.
Yeah.
He has not, like, hidden or deleted these tweets since. They are still there for anybody to go and check out. And, like, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't recommend it unless you just have that morbid,
curiosity,
masochistic desire to be like, what's happening here?
If you want to be traumatized, we do have some resources. Like, the ones that
if you want to be traumatized,
we do. We have some,
I'm just curious. I'm just so curious. Like, I mean, I've got plenty. And honestly, this segment is going to go on into, this will branch off into different podcasts, because it's one of the commonalities we've seen that just absolutely dictates the fandom's perception now. There are so many people that now they think Transformers, girls that want to robots. It's gotten absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't like that.
No.
And I'm not going to say like Tumblr contributed to it, but people exploited these social platforms in order to get their shit directly into the hands of the people that are in charge of the content. And it's like, how fucking crazy are you guys?
Yeah, and the problem is IDW hired some of these people
without really knowing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that like they just were like, yeah, you do gross shit, I'm hiring you. But like, I don't think they really understand that some of those people have, really, like, what do you call it when it's like they've got some controversial, serious controversies behind them. Like, one of them is so fascinating, we might talk about it on another one, but kind of wanted to just keep this one in the realm of like specifically around this content creators Twitter. This is the way people have been behaving, and nobody's brought it to anyone's attention really. I can't find any call out posts that are just like, stop talking to so-and-so like this. It's gross. Like, I think I honestly wouldn't be shocked if his follower count kind of fluctuated and all the normal fans that just like either muted him or just unfollowed because they couldn't stand their feed being covered by this weird, and it's not even just semi-sexual or innuendo-filled stuff. No, it is hyper-sexualized. It is to the max.
Yeah.
And now even when I go, like, I checked in the other day and it's like, now he's like doing slightly less sexual shit where it's like, which person on the ship does vapes and shit like that? And people are just like, they're like, oh my god, does this character vape? And he's just like, sure, I guess that one would. It kind of goes in with his personality. And then going, eee, oh my god, it's so funny. And it's like, god, I want to fuck. Why do you guys get so worked up over that? It's weird. Like, it's different than having a healthy representation of a character and they finally, you know, this man finally admits this man, he loves him, and, you know, despite how harsh the world is, they bring each other comfort, and it's wholesome and shit, whatever. And a difference between, like, I want him to throw him on the bed and him and just make it so he can't even walk the next day. And it's like, holy just relax.
I'm not gonna sit here and blame his work for it, but the fact of the matter is this person doesn't have a lot of understanding about
what good representation even looks like.
So when it turned into that, is he so kind of clouded by all of these people that he thinks, all right, this is what good representation is? And at this, has anyone tried to correct him? Has anyone tried to help him along this journey so that way he can go back into doing something he loves and at the same time provide people with, you know, the progressive nature of things that they actually want rather than catering to these hyper-sexual, explicit fans that basically tortured him for 2 years.
They had no filter. No filter.
So again, if anyone has any kind of receipts or even has
just something interesting about their own and maybe their own interaction or just something that's along those lines, like I'd love to read it because it's, again, it just appeals to my absolute morbid fascination with why are people like that? I'm like, again, to reiterate, I am not trying to kink shame people, but it's just like, damn, read the room. It's the same feeling about when you're at a convention and Peter Cullen and Frank Welker are on a panel and somebody gets up to the mic finally and it's this nobody just going up there and being like, so, did Orion Pax and Megatron, like, did they ever, like, date or whatever? And it makes you just go, oh my god, just stop.
It's not even that. To me, it's even more personal.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm just, it's in the vein of, like, that is, like, the step 1 down to hell.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting worse from there, where it's like, I swear, it's the same thing where people are like, try to refrain from shipping real-life actors, please, because they're human beings, and most of them are married and have kids that can see this shit, and it's creepy. It's just creepy and cringe if you don't know how to fucking, like... And people always like to sit there and cry out, like, stop taking away my, my individuality and my way that I express myself through my... And I'm like, there are a lot of things you probably express in your head, but to sit there and make a whole post about how you feel like you're Drift and you want Ratchet to just raw you, like, it's weird. It's like, what the... They've become so diluted and just completely... They're now outside of the actual material and content itself. They've gone into this crazy, just hyper-fixated dream world where all they want is their fantasies indulged. That's all they want. And they
don't care who...
They don't care who gets fucking stepped on in the way of it. They're just like, oh, well...
Even if it's someone they think they respect.
Yeah, honestly, the stuff that people say to him, it's like... I don't know whether or not he likes it or not. Me reading it, it makes me gag. It's just, for me, it's my opinion on it is people need to dial it back. It's too much. And that would definitely completely bar me from wanting to follow him, because if you get 100 tweets a week and 98 of them are sexual, why would I follow you for the little 2 tweets that matter to me? Yeah. And I'm sure there's ways to filter all that crap out, but it's like, man, that sounds like a real chore. I don't really like Twitter at all. I don't like the way it works. The interface freaks me out. It's very strange to me. I've never been able to wrap my head around it, but, like, there's a reason I'm not on Twitter, and I'm barely on Tumblr. Yeah. Barely. And I'm definitely not there for Transformers anymore. It's, fucking memes and dumb shit and talking to my friend. So it's like, well, I would definitely say it successfully got me out of there. I'm just like,
yeah. More on that later.
Honestly, yeah, more on that later. Yeah. Tumblr escapades and all that shit. I don't know. Tumblr's just a good example because, everybody took the worst of Tumblr and migrated it right to Twitter. And it's to the point where even people that are not involved in fandoms can recognize that. People are just saying out-of-pocket shit about politics, whatever the I'm not trying to say that Transformers is the most pressing area that people need to talk about how horrible it is. But I am saying it exists. Those bad fans exist, and it still exists. And I just want people to know that there is a danger of encountering those people when you go so far as to interact with the official people that are employed by the company to work on it. And those people are not exempt, apparently, from being bombarded with gross anons and just shit from people that's like, why?
And my biggest problem is that at no point in time have the fans started to be like, okay, it's enough.
Nobody's reflected on it and been like, guys, why are we doing it? We're gross. Like, I've seen a lot of it self-admissive, like, confiding into the world, being like, hey guys, 4 years ago I was definitely really f***ing gross. Like, I've seen a lot of people be like, me 10 years ago, yikes. Yeah. And yet to have never really seen more of the mainstream semi-popular art blogs all the way to the super popular ones ever, after me personally witnessing them engage in really crazy content, like, never has anybody ever been like, ooh, sorry, this was weird. Yeah, nobody was ever like, that's a weird chapter in my life, I'm closing it. They just change and don't talk about it. They're not, I feel like if you were to try and get one of them on this podcast, they would not even be willing to respond to an email being like, hey, you were on Tumblr during this weird time period. Anything weird happened to you? I just really feel like people don't want to talk about it. They want to repress it or something. They just want to get rid of it. And they don't want to admit that maybe one or two of them might have acted poorly, and it's like, well, people remember. The people you acted poorly towards, they fucking remember. Yeah. So, you know, no action online goes without a receipt. Honestly, everyone can screenshot something.
Or a repercussion.
Yeah.
How many people have they isolated from something that they love in order to get something that they want?
Yeah, and the comic line, for some reason, is such a worse area than when you compare it to the television shows. Like, call me crazy, but the Rescue Bots fan base isn't this fucking whack. Like, it's really not. And yes, it's a baby show or whatever, but I've definitely seen some not safe for work for that. But never in the droves that I've seen the people that are fans of the comics absolutely decimate this man's feed. Just imagine getting mail sent to your door physically like that, and all of it is just that.
Yeah.
It's just...
I know at one point in time he did take a break from Twitter. I think it was sometime before 2015. But, you know, has he healed? Is he okay?
Is he okay? Yeah.
Is he being held hostage by his fans?
Honestly, like, I hope if he does come into contact with it, I'm sure even without mentioning his name, he probably knows who he is. But, you know, I don't want him to feel like we're attacking him. I really didn't want to have that angle. If I was ever in some dreamland area, just ever able to talk to him, like, first of all, I'm a pretty casual fan. I'm more into the television and media and, like, movies than I am into the written stuff. I mean, I've read the weird, funny, like, Exodus books and the shit that's just so weird. Like,
Ghosts of Yesterday.
The giant, long chapter books and stuff. I've read most of those. Like, I'm definitely, you know, and I've written my own stuff. I've drawn my own stuff, but I would never, you know, like, if I ever got to talk to him, I would just be like, first of all, like, I wouldn't even tell anybody.
Yeah.
Because
it would be
like, you know, it'd be a very private thing. I feel like if he was just like, yeah, this shit fucked me up, and I'd be like, damn, I would not blame you for being fucked up by this, you know. Shit. Like, I almost feel like it'd be hard to talk to him without bringing that up, in the sense of like an AMA 10 years from now, where people are like, don't you remember how weird it was? And like, people were crazy. Like, it'd be so hard to talk to him about the actual content. Yeah. I feel like, because I'd be in the back of my mind,
for this.
Yeah, because in the back of my mind, I'd always be like, man, you received some crazy shit. Are you okay? And I'm laughing because it's like, it's just a nervous like, I don't even know what I would do. I know that I would try my hardest not to. Again, we don't know why he continues to use the Twitter for that. Occasionally, definitely not as much, and he definitely sounds like he's very, like, soulless when he posts, like, just, yes, go away, just, I'll say whatever you want, just go away. Because, I mean, it's not like he's gonna suffer any ramifications for saying stuff, but some of the stuff he's confirmed, it's not even, like, he did respond literally to one that was famous because, somebody basically, the gist of it was, hey, Rung is so old that you think of his, first of all, was using a bunch of, like, headcanon fandom terminology. It was like, hey, do you think if Rung's panel popped open and it was, his dick was just so old it turned to dust? Anyway, yeah, I'd snort that like cocaine. And he literally goes, what? And they're like, you speak English, yes? You know what I said. And it's like, what a fucking offensive, disrespectful way to talk to him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just got really mad about that, because if somebody talked to me, like, yeah, he didn't have to respond, but he had every right to be like, what the Like, I would have been like, what the Like, I would want that person to know. I saw that, and it was really gross. And he's had several interactions with them, and I don't know if he knows the same person, if he's had, like, it's not, they never really changed their icon or their username. Like, it's pretty obvious. I saw another one where, obviously, the next interaction, not obviously, but the next one I saw wasn't as bad, but it's just like, damn, I would have blocked your ass immediately. Mm-hmm. I really would have. And, you know, that person probably is so fucking crazy, they would have been like, oh my god, he blocked me, haha, lol, it's because I said this. And I'd be like, I can't believe you said that. Yeah. Like, I've never known anybody personally that interacts with people like that, so I've never been able to be like, whoa, buddy. Yeah. But, man, I would have been like, holy don't talk to people like that. Yeah. Man, woman, whatever, I don't care. Don't talk to anyone like that. If they're younger than you, or they're older than you, anybody in existence. Why?
Alright, on that note.
On that fucking sad note,
we are
right before we jump in the abyss,
we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. Thanks
go
for
ahead
listening.
And close this off. I will say at the end of this, there is a version of this that we recorded beforehand, and I would say it's arguably a little bit better. However, the mic was not recording, and instead the shitty webcam on the computer was, and yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna try and debug the audio, but depending on what happens with that, we might release them both. One of them might be behind the Patreon. I don't know. The other one I do know is a little bit more explicit. We do say a lot of weirder shit because it was the first run and it was so weird to cover this topic because a lot of Transformers podcasts, as we know right now, are mainly talking about the toy lines and stuff like that. And I just want people to know that, like, Transformers is not exempt from having a very strange corner of the fandom. I just want people to be aware that it's weird, and we know it's weird, and we've seen it. We've been there. We've been there, my man. We came, we saw, we couldn't kick its ass, unfortunately. So, at least we're just gonna draw some attention to it. So, anyway,